The morning sun painted the vineyards of Tuscany in shades of amber and gold. Sofia Castellano stood before the antique mirror in her family's villa, watching her reflection transform into that of a bride. The ivory silk dress hugged her curves, perfectly hand-embroidered with pearls that caught the light like tiny stars. Her dark hair was swept into an elegant updo, adorned with her grandmother's diamond tiara. She looked like a princess from a fairy tale, but her heart felt like it belonged in a tragedy. Today was supposed to be the happiest day of her life. Instead, it felt like the day her dreams would be buried forever. The marriage to Leonardo Romano had been arranged by their families, a merger of two powerful Italian wine empires. While her parents spoke of tradition and honor, Sofia had secretly hoped that maybe, just maybe, love could bloom from duty. Her mother Elena entered the room with tears in her eyes. "You look breathtaking, my darling," she whispered, adjusting Sofia's veil. "Leonardo is a good man. He will provide for you, protect you." Sofia nodded, though her throat felt tight. "But will he love me, Mama?" Elena's pause spoke volumes. "Love will come, child. Sometimes it takes time to grow." The groom's cold preparation miles away in his penthouse apartment overlooking Florence. Leonardo Romano adjusted his black tie with mechanical precision. His reflection showed a man who had everything money could buy: a tall frame, sharp jawline, eyes the color of stormy seas, and an expression that revealed nothing. At 28, he was already running the Romano wine empire with ruthless efficiency. His best friend and business partner, Gabriel Rossi, sat in the leather chair behind him, watching with concern. Gabriel was everything Leonardo was not: warm, expressive, with golden hair and eyes that sparkled with genuine emotion. Where Leonardo built walls, Gabriel built bridges. "You look like you're preparing for a board meeting, not your wedding," Gabriel observed, his voice carrying a hint of worry. Leonardo shrugged, not meeting his friend's eyes in the mirror. "What's the difference?" "Both are business arrangements. Leo, she's a woman, not a contract." Sofia Castellano is known to be kind, intelligent, beautiful. Many men would consider themselves lucky, and perhaps one of them should marry her instead. Leonardo replied coldly, turning away from the mirror. "This marriage serves a purpose. Our families merge, the business expands, everyone wins." Gabriel stood up, placing a firm hand on his friend's shoulder. "And what about happiness? What about love?" Leonardo's laugh was bitter. "Love is a luxury I can't afford. My father taught me that emotion makes you weak, vulnerable. I have responsibilities. Gabriel, hundreds of employees depend on me. I won't let sentiment cloud my judgment." The Chapel of Broken Dreams, the ancient chapel of San Lorenzo, was filled with Italy's elite, their whispered conversations, creating a symphony of anticipation. Sofia walked down the aisle on her father's arm, her steps measured and graceful despite the trembling in her hands. She had imagined this moment countless times as a little girl, but never like this. Leonardo stood at the altar, impeccable in his tailored tuxedo, but his eyes held no warmth when they met hers. He looked at her as he might look at a beautiful painting, appreciating the aesthetics but feeling no emotional connection. When she reached the altar, he offered his hand with the same courtesy he might show a business associate. Gabriel stood. As best man, and as Sofia's eyes briefly met his, she saw something that made her heart skip. Genuine warmth, understanding, and something else she couldn't quite name. His smile was encouraging, as if he were trying to tell her everything would be all right. The priest began the ceremony in Latin, his voice echoing through the ancient stone walls. When it came time for the vows, Leonardo's words were perfectly rehearsed but utterly devoid of feeling. "I take you, Sofia, to be my wife. I promise to honor and protect you, to provide for you as long as we both shall live." Sofia's voice trembled as she spoke her vows, pouring into them all the hope she carried in her heart. "I take you, Leonardo, to be my husband. I promise to love you, to support you, to be your partner in all things, hoping that our hearts might find each other in time." The kiss that sealed their union was brief and formal, a mere brushing of lips that felt more like a signature on a document than a promise of love. The exception of pretense, the reception was held in the Romano family's grand estate, its gardens. adorned with thousands of white roses and twinkling lights. The guests danced and celebrated, but the bride and groom remained strangers to each other, even in their shared spotlight. Leonardo spent most of the evening networking with business partners and investors, treating the reception like a corporate event. He danced with Sophia once, as tradition demanded. But his touch was impersonal. His conversation focused on logistics for their upcoming honeymoon in the Maldives. The resort has excellent business facilities, he told her as they swayed too. The music, I'll need to stay connected with the office. Sophia's heart sank. I was hoping we might use the time to get to know each other better. We have a lifetime for that, Leonardo replied dismissively. Right now I have a merger to complete with the Benedetti Group. The timing is crucial. When the dance ended, Leonardo immediately excused himself to take a phone call, leaving Sophia standing alone on the dance floor. She felt exposed, abandoned. Like an actress who had forgotten her lines, it was Gabriel who rescued her, appearing at her side with 2 glasses of champagne and a gentle smile. May I have this dance? The bride shouldn't be left standing alone at her own wedding. As they danced, Gabriel's touch was gentle, respectful, but she could feel the strength in his hands, the warmth radiating from his body. He moved with natural grace, making her feel like she was floating. You look beautiful tonight, Sophia, he said softly. Leonardo is a fool not to see it, she blushed, looking away. He sees me as a duty, nothing more. Then he's blind, Gabriel replied with such sincerity that she felt tears prick her eyes. You deserve to be cherished, not treated like a business arrangement. They danced in comfortable silence, and for those few minutes, Sophia felt what it might be like to be truly seen by someone. Gabriel's eyes never left her face. She found herself wondering what it would be like to be married to a man who looked at her the way Gabriel was looking at her now, the wedding night revelation. Honeymoon suite at the Romano estate was decorated with rose petals and candles, a romantic setting that felt cruelly ironic. Sophia sat on the edge of the ornate bed, still in her wedding dress, watching as Leonardo paced by the window with his phone pressed to his ear. No, the Benedetti contract needs to be revised before Monday, he was saying, his voice sharp with irritation. I don't care if it's my wedding night. Business doesn't stop for sentiment. Sophia waited patiently, her hands folded in her lap, hope and humiliation warring in her chest. When Leonardo finally ended the call, he turned to her with the same expression he might wear for a mildly inconvenient meeting. I'm sorry about that, he said, though his tone suggested he wasn't sorry at all. There's a crisis with the Barcelona expansion. It's our wedding night, Leonardo, Sophia said quietly. Surely the business can wait until tomorrow. Leonardo loosened his tie, his movements sharp and impatient. The business is what provides for this lifestyle, Sophia. The sooner you understand that, the better our arrangement will work. The word arrangement hit her like a slap. Is that all this is to you? An arrangement? What else would it be? Leonardo asked, genuinely puzzled by her distress. We barely know each other. This marriage serves both our families' interests. I thought you understood that. Sophia stood up slowly, dignity wrapping around her like armor. I understood the circumstances, but I hoped. I believed that perhaps we might find something real together. Leonardo's expression softened slightly, but not enough. Sophia, I'm not a romantic man. I don't believe in fairy tales or love at first sight. I can offer you respect, security, a good life. Isn't that enough? The silence stretched between them like a chasm. Finally, Sophia spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. For some women, perhaps, but I've dreamed of more since I was little. Girl, then I suggest you adjust your expectations, Leonardo said, not unkindly, but with finality. Good night, Sophia. The guest room has been prepared for you if you prefer your own space. As he disappeared into the ensuite bathroom, Sophia sank back onto the bed, her beautiful dress spreading around her like the petals of a dying flower. Outside, she could hear the last of the wedding guests departing, their laughter fading into the night. She thought of Gabriel's warm eyes, his gentle words, the way he had made her feel seen and valued during their dance. For a dangerous moment, she let herself imagine what it would be like to be married to a man who chose love over duty, warmth over wealth, But Gabriel was Leonardo's best friend, and she was now Leonardo's wife. Some dreams, she realized with a breaking heart, were destined to remain just that. Oh. Dreams whispered in the darkness of a loveless marriage. The candles burned lower as Sophia finally stood to remove her wedding dress. Each pearl button she unfastened, feeling like another piece of her romantic heart being put away forever. Little did she know that miles away, Gabriel Rossi lay awake in his own bed, staring at the ceiling and wondering how he could already be falling in love with his best friend's wife. The Romano mansion stood like a beautiful prison in the Tuscan hills, its marble halls echoing with the sound of Sophia's lonely footsteps. 3 months had passed since the wedding, and the routine had become painfully predictable. Leonardo left for the office before dawn and returned after midnight. Their conversations limited to polite inquiries about meals and schedules. Sophia had tried everything to bridge the gap between them. She learned to cook his favorite dishes, arranged fresh flowers in his study, even attempted to discuss his business ventures. But Leonardo remained as distant as the day they married, treating her with the same courtesy he showed the household staff. On this particular morning, Sophia sat in the garden pavilion, sketching the vineyard landscape with trembling hands. She had taken up art again, finding solace in colors and shapes when words failed to reach her husband's heart. The drawing before her showed a woman standing alone among the vines, her face turned toward an empty sky. The sound of footsteps on gravel made her look up. Gabriel approached with 2 cups of coffee, his warm smile a stark contrast to the cold formality she had grown accustomed to. "I thought you might need some company," he said, settling beside her on the stone bench. "Leonardo mentioned you spend a lot of time out here alone. He notices that much at least." Sophia replied with a bitter laugh. Accepting the coffee gratefully, Gabriel studied her sketch, his expression growing serious. "This is beautiful, but so sad. Is this how you see yourself?" Sophia's hand stilled on the paper. "Is it that obvious?" To someone who's paying attention, yes. Gabriel's voice was gentle but firm. "Sophia, you're withering away in this marriage. Anyone with eyes can see it." His tears threatened to spill, but Sophia blinked them back. "I keep hoping that if I try harder, if I'm patient enough, maybe he'll what? Fall in love with you?" Gabriel set down his coffee and turned to face her fully. "Leonardo is my oldest friend, and I love him like a brother. But he's wrong about this. He's wrong about you." The growing connection Gabriel's visits to the Romano estate became more frequent, though he told himself it was purely for business. He and Leonardo were expanding their wine export operation, which required countless meetings and strategy sessions. But if Gabriel was honest, he looked forward to the moments when Leonardo would excuse himself for phone calls, leaving Gabriel alone with Sophia. During these stolen conversations, Gabriel discovered layers to Sophia that her husband had never bothered to explore. She spoke fluent French and English, had studied literature at university, and possessed a sharp wit that Leonardo's coldness had slowly been dulling. She painted watercolors with the skill of a professional, played piano like an angel, and had a laugh that could light up the darkest room. One afternoon, while Leonardo was in Milan for meetings, Gabriel found Sophia in the music room, her fingers dancing across the piano keys in a melancholy melody. "That's beautiful," he said from the doorway. "What is it?" Sophia's hand stilled on the keys. "Something I composed. I call it the Song of the Caged Bird." Gabriel approached slowly, as if she might flee like a frightened dove. "May I sit with you?" She nodded, sliding over on the bench to make room. Gabriel's presence beside her felt electric, dangerous, and wonderful, all at once. When his shoulder brushed hers, she felt more alive than she had in months. "Play it again," he requested softly. As Sophia's fingers found the keys once more, Gabriel watched her face transform. The sadness remained, but there was passion there too, fire that her loveless marriage hadn't completely extinguished. When the last note faded, he found himself reaching out to touch her hand. "Don't let him kill this part of you," Gabriel whispered. "You're too beautiful, too alive to fade away." Sophia looked into his eyes and saw everything she had been missing. Warmth, desire, understanding, love. The moment stretched between them, charged with possibility and danger. They both knew they were crossing a line, but neither had the strength to step back. The business trip revelation 2 weeks later, Leonardo announced he would be traveling to New York for a month-long business expansion. He delivered this news over dinner with the same emotion he might use to discuss the weather. "Gabriel will check on things here while I'm gone," Leonardo said, cutting his steak with mechanical precision. "The vineyard workers need supervision, and there are some local contracts to review." Sophia nodded, trying to hide the flutter of anticipation in her chest. A month with Gabriel nearby, without Leonardo's cold presence filling the house like winter fog. Of course, she managed. "I'll make sure Gabriel has everything he needs." Leonardo looked up from his plate, studying his wife with mild curiosity. "You seem different lately. More animated?" Sophia's heart stopped, but Gabriel smoothly intervened. "She's been helping me with the cultural research for our French expansion. Sophia's insights into European art and literature have been invaluable." Leonardo returned to his meal, already losing interest. Good idle time breeds discontent. After Leonardo left for his trip, the mansion felt different. Without his austere presence, the rooms seemed brighter, the shadows less oppressive. Sophia found herself humming as she arranged flowers, her step lighter as she moved through her daily routines. Gabriel began spending entire days at the estate, working from Leonardo's study, but emerging frequently to seek Sophia's opinion on various matters. They took long walks through the vineyards, shared meals on the terrace, and talked for hours about books, dreams, and the lives they might have lived in different circumstances. They almost kissed one evening as the sun painted the sky in shades of rose and gold. Gabriel found Sophia in her art studio. She was working on a new painting, this one showing a woman dancing alone in a field of sunflowers, her face turned toward the light. "You're becoming bolder," Gabriel observed, studying the vibrant colors and joyful movement in the piece. "It's different when you're here," Sophia admitted, not looking away from her canvas. "Like I remember who I used to be." Gabriel moved closer, close enough that she could smell his cologne, something warm and woody that made her head spin. "Who were you before all this?" Sophia set down her brush and turned to face him. "I was someone who believed in fairy tales. Someone who thought love could conquer everything. I was naive, I suppose." "Shh, not naive," Gabriel said, reaching up to tuck a strand of hair behind her ear. "Hopeful. There's a difference." His touch sent electricity through her entire body. She leaned into his hand, starved for gentle contact, for someone to see her as more than an obligation. "Gabriel," she whispered, his name like a prayer on her lips. "I know," he said, his voice rough with emotion. "I know we can't. I know it's wrong, but God help me, Sophia. I can't stop thinking about you. I can't stop wishing things were different." They stood frozen, caught between desire and duty, love and loyalty. Gabriel's thumb traced her cheek, and Sophia's eyes fluttered closed. He leaned closer, and she could feel his breath against her lips. The sound of a car in the driveway shattered the moment. They sprang apart, hearts pounding as Sophia rushed to the window. "It's just the delivery truck," she said, but the spell was broken. Gabriel ran his hands through his hair, looking tortured. "I should go. I can't do this to Leonardo. He's my best friend. And my husband," Sophia added quietly, though the words felt foreign on her tongue. But as Gabriel left that evening, they both knew something irreversible had happened. The wall between friendship and love had cracked, and through that crack, dangerous feelings were beginning to flood in. Leonardo returned from New York with contracts signed and deals closed, but something felt different in his own home. Sophia seemed more vibrant, more alive than when he'd left. She moved with a new energy, smiled more readily, and there was a light in her eyes that hadn't been there before. At first he attributed it to his absence. Perhaps she had simply enjoyed the freedom from his demanding schedule. But as days passed, he began to notice other changes. The house was filled with fresh flowers, music drifted from the piano room, and Sophia had returned to painting with renewed passion. "You seem happy," he observed one evening over dinner, studying his wife with newfound attention. Sophia looked up, startled. It was the first personal comment he had made in months. "I've been keeping busy while you were away," Gabriel mentioned. "You helped with the French expansion research. I wasn't aware you had business interests." "There's a lot about me you don't know," Sophia replied. then immediately regretted the edge in her voice. Leonardo set down his fork, really looking at her for the first time since their wedding. She was beautiful, he realized with a start, and not just attractive in the abstract way he had always acknowledged, but genuinely, breathtakingly beautiful. Her dark hair caught the candlelight, her eyes sparkled with intelligence, and there was a grace to her movements that he had been too distracted to notice. "Tell me," he said suddenly. "Tell you what? About yourself, your interests, your dreams? We've been married for months, and I realize I don't know you at all." Sophia stared at him in shock. This was the first time Leonardo had shown any interest in her as a person rather than a convenient wife, but it was too little too late. Her heart had already begun its dangerous journey towards someone else. Gabriel's internal war. Gabriel stood in his apartment, staring at the painting Sophia had given him the day before Leonardo's return. It was a landscape of the vineyard at sunset, but in the corner, barely visible, was the figure of a man watching a woman dance among the vines. She had signed it simply for Gabriel, who sees me. His phone buzzed with a text from Leonardo. "Dinner tomorrow? Tomorrow. Need to discuss the Barcelona project." Gabriel closed his eyes, guilt washing over him like a tide. Leonardo was his closest friend, had been since university. They had built their business together, shared their dreams and fears, trusted each other completely. And now, Gabriel was falling in love with Leonardo's wife. He had tried to stay away since Leonardo's return, making excuses about other clients and travel requirements. But the truth was, he couldn't trust himself around Sophia. Every time he saw her, the desire to take her in his arms and tell her he loved her grew stronger. The worst part was seeing how she looked at him now, with such longing and hope that it broke his heart. She was trapped in a marriage to a man who treated her like a beautiful ornament, and Gabriel was the only one who truly saw her soul. The confrontation 3 weeks after Leonardo's return, the inevitable happened. Gabriel arrived for a business dinner to find Sophia alone in the sitting room. Leonardo delayed by yet another urgent call. "He's been different since he came back," Sophia said without preamble. "He actually talks to me now, asks about my day, my interests." Gabriel felt his heart clench. "That's good, isn't it? It's what you wanted." Sophia turned to face him, her eyes bright with unshed tears. "It's too late, Gabriel. I spent months trying to reach him, trying to be the wife he needed. And now, when I've given up hope, when my heart belongs to someone else, he wants to try." "Sophia, don't," Gabriel warned. But she continued. "I love you," she whispered, the words hanging in the air between them like a confession. "I know it's wrong. I know it's impossible, but I can't pretend anymore. I love you, and I think you love me too." Before Gabriel could respond, they heard Leonardo's footsteps in the hallway. Sophia quickly moved away, but not before Gabriel saw the pain in her eyes, the desperate hope that he would say the words she needed to hear. Leonardo entered, apologizing for the delay, and they proceeded with dinner as if nothing had happened. But Gabriel could barely concentrate on the business discussion, acutely aware of Sophia's presence, of the weight of her confession, the impossible choice before him, the decision that night. Gabriel walked alone through the streets of Florence, wrestling with his conscience. He could continue as they were, stealing moments and glances, slowly destroying 3 lives with their impossible love. He could confess everything to Leonardo and destroy their friendship. Or he could walk away, leaving Sophia to find whatever happiness she could in her marriage. By morning, he had made his decision. Gabriel requested a meeting with Leonardo in his office, away from the house, away from Sophia's influence. "I need to tell you something," Gabriel began, his hands shaking slightly. "About Sophia." Leonardo looked up from his papers, instantly alert. "What about her? She's in love with someone else." The words hit Leonardo like a physical blow. Stood abruptly, his face pale. "What are you talking about?" Gabriel took a deep breath. "She's in love with me, and I..." He paused, the admission tearing at his throat. "I'm in love with her too." The silence stretched between them, heavy with betrayal and shock. Finally, Leonardo spoke, his voice deadly quiet. "How long?" "Nothing's happened," Gabriel said quickly. There's been nothing inappropriate. But the feelings are there, and they're growing stronger every day." Leonardo sank back into root, his chair, looking older than his years. She married me. She married you because your families arranged it. She tried to love you, Leonardo. For months, she tried everything to reach you, to connect with you, and you treated her like a piece of furniture. So this is my fault. Leonardo's voice was rising. No, Gabriel said firmly. It's no one's fault. But it's reality. She deserves to be loved, truly loved, and you've shown her nothing but indifference. Leonardo was quiet for a long moment, processing this revelation. When he finally spoke, his voice was broken. I thought I was protecting myself. My father always said love made men weak, vulnerable. I thought if I kept my distance, focused on business, I could have a successful marriage without the complications of emotion. And instead, you drove her into the arms of your best friend, Gabriel said gently. The choice of love that evening. Leonardo came home to find Sophia in the garden, tending to her roses in the fading light. For the first time, he really watched her, saw the careful way she handled each bloom, the gentle concentration on her face, the natural grace of her movements. Sophia, he called softly. She turned, and he saw it immediately, the way her face fell slightly when she realized it was him and not Gabriel. We need to talk, Leonardo said. They sat on the stone bench where she had shared so many conversations with Gabriel, and Leonardo struggled to find the words he should have spoken months ago. I know about Gabriel, he said finally. Sophia went completely still, her face draining of color. Leonardo, I know, he held up a hand. Let me finish. I know you love him, and I know he loves you, and I know that's my fault. Tears began to flow down Sophia's cheeks, but she remained silent. I married you for all the wrong reasons, Leonardo continued. I thought I could have a wife without having to risk my heart. I thought I could keep you at arm's length and still have a successful marriage. I was wrong. You weren't wrong to protect yourself, Sophia whispered. I knew what this marriage was when I agreed to it, but you hoped for more. And I killed that hope through neglect and indifference. Leonardo turned to face her fully. Gabriel came to me today. He told me everything, and he's prepared to walk away, to leave Florence, to sacrifice his happiness for our marriage. Sophia's eyes widened in alarm. Oh, he can't. He can and he will, unless I release you from this marriage. Leonardo's voice was steady now, resolved. Sophia, I'm giving you a choice. Stay married to me, and I promise to try to be the husband you deserve. I'll learn to love you the way you need to be loved. Or take your freedom and choose love. The final resolution 1 month later, the annulment papers were signed. The Romano and Castellano families were scandalized, but Leonardo held firm. He had realized that true love meant wanting someone's happiness above your own comfort. Sophia stood in the same garden where she had spent so many lonely months. But now Gabriel was beside her, their hands intertwined as they watched the sunset paint the sky in brilliant colors. Are you sure? Gabriel asked, for the 100th time. We could still go away, start fresh somewhere else. Sophia shook her head. Leonardo gave us his blessing. He's been more generous in letting me go than he ever was in keeping me. Gabriel lifted her hand to his lips, pressing a gentle kiss to her palm. I love you, Sophia. I'll spend the rest of my life making sure you never doubt that. I know, she whispered. And I love you too, more than I ever thought possible. From his study window, Leonardo watched them together and felt, for the first time in months, a sense of peace. He had lost a wife he never deserved and kept a friend who had shown him what real love looked like. Gabriel and Sophia married 6 months later in a small ceremony in Sophia's hometown. Surrounded by family and friends who celebrated their love story born from heartbreak but nurtured by truth. Leonardo stood as Gabriel's best man, finally understanding that sometimes the greatest act of love is letting go. And in the years that followed, whenever someone asked Leonardo about his brief first marriage, he would smile sadly and say, I realized too late that she needed to be loved, not just provided for. By the time I understood the difference, my best friend had already learned to love her the way she deserved. Love, he had discovered, wasn't about possession or duty. It was about seeing someone's heart and choosing to cherish it. He had been too late to love her properly, but he had been just in time to set her free. The end.